Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jodo Cast, your Star Wars gaming podcast. This is episode 58. My name is Evan Lewis. I am, of course, joined by, not Leo, but I still have Joe Latovsky.
Aloha.
I love this. We should get a different a hello in a different language each time. You need to start brushing up on your foreign languages.
I've probably got enough for quite a few episodes before I have to start studying.
Ooh, excellent. I'm looking forward to learning. And joining us again is a returning guest host whom I have never gotten to do a show with, and that's Kurt Larson. So thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you being here. And it's not just because Leo can't be here, but you're going to help us out with today's topic. So thank you very much. You're not just a substitute for Leo.
I mean, there's a big hole in the Jodo cast repertoire, and Kurt's going to fill that hole. That's why we brought him up.
Yeah, filling holes is always fun, so...
Well, you'll find out it later in the show. Or you probably know already because you read the title of the episode, I'm thinking. Most people read the title of episodes before they... Talking about Armada. There.
There's just no suspense anymore.
What happened in the good old days when podcasts didn't have titles and you just rolled the dice?
The wild, wild west of the podcast days. Not like the movie Wild, Wild West. That'd be awful. But let's talk a little bit about what we've been playing. And I'm actually going to go first this time because I think we're going to probably roll into the main topic with what you two have been playing. And I have not been playing a lot because this past weekend I had the severe pleasure of volunteering once again at Indie PopCon, which was a fantastic experience.
So it's just about soda?
Yes, that's exactly what it's about. But if you call
it
soda,
I bet there
yell
is
at you.
a soda con or a soft drink con or whatever. Because you ever see those stores that just have all those crazy indie sodas?
Yeah, and there's
like candy shops and stuff. Like they've got all those people who make those crazy indie, off the wall pops. Probably have a convention somewhere where they taste each other's stuff.
You make it sound so romantic.
But it's definitely like a fan convention, not like an industry thing, right? Like people come in cosplay as their favorite sodas.
I'm Banana Soda. Oh, everyone hates that character.
But then there's always that group of people that's going around singing the Fanta song from a decade or so ago.
They're like, that's too mainstream. Get that out of here.
Yeah, you got the RC Cola people and the Shasta people being like, hey.
The people who can't decide if Sioux City is too corporate or not.
You call it root beer or sarsaparilla. All right, but I did get to do that, and I got to do a lot of things like meeting Timothy Zahn, so I think that that counts.
Did you tell him we did a podcast about his book?
No.
Hello, Mr. We talked about your book.
I wanted to. I wanted to be like, if you ever need to hear someone basically tell you you're the best thing ever and that we think your peers are garbage, you can listen to us.
You should have asked him if he knew Kevin Hearn.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Can you tell me when Kevin Hearn's coming to a convention? I'd love to meet him. Although I did play, I don't know even what spurred me to do this. I played a little bit of Battlefront Skirmish a week ago. For practice in air quotes, but it's not even practice for real Battlefront. There's no value to it at all. I don't know. Did I miss something? Am I supposed to get something out of that besides, hey, the AI is dumb as hell?
It's kind of buggy. That was the thing where they were like, okay, you all want it, here it is, which is a nice gesture, but it was also, just they probably put it together over a weekend.
Yeah, I've never even tried it, honestly.
Yeah, that was my first time trying Skirmish because most of my time has been spent playing with you, Joe. And
Well,
it was not a rewarding experience, I'll just say that.
playing with me.
Well, compared to Skirmish, you're much more rewarding. But what else? What else? Oh, and I picked up the newest Force Pack for LCG.
I haven't bought that yet.
Oh,
I might not get it
man.
until after this weekend. This weekend is our LCG Store Championship, which I'm going to be running, but I probably won't get that pack until after that.
It is so sweet. It's got the new faction cards. It's got Afra, Krennic, Jyn Erso, Cassian. Oh, this is one of those.
Fantasy Flight really ought to, pretend that game never existed up until, tomorrow and make a big announcement and try and convince people it's a new game, because if they started playing now, they'd probably feel a lot differently.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think so. That would be... People getting into it now are much better off than when Leo and I started getting into it at the very beginning. So that's kind of been what I've been up to lately with gaming. But whoever wants to go first, like I said, I think the two of you are probably going to roll right into the main topic. You two decide. You two fight over who talks first.
I could go because I don't have that much. We're in kind of a lull here. We're between X-Wing leagues, so I haven't played that super recently. We're between store championships, so I kind of haven't played much in a few weeks. I did a couple matches of Imperial Assault over the 4th of July weekend, trying out some different stuff, and I did some Armada a few weeks ago for our store championship. Otherwise... the only thing I've done is today I picked up my Wave 6 ships for Armada and my Wave 11 ships for X-Wing, so I've been opening those all night.
Oh, those came out, didn't they? I need to go pick up the Skurg.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one. We have a tournament here in town on Saturday where you can use the new ships right away and possibly win some of the new ships. And so I think the first list I'm going to build is definitely going to be some kind of Skurg list. Maybe use Nim and drop some bombs on myself and stuff. I think it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, that bomber is kind of the first X-Wing product that's got me excited in a long time.
Yeah, it's like a super cool TIE bomber that's better and has new bombs and
Which
stuff.
is
So it
sad.
makes sense.
Every time a cool new bomb ship comes out, it just makes the TIE bomber sadder. Because it should be like the de facto bombing ship, but it's not.
Yeah. And, the model looks really cool on this one, too. I'm really impressed with the paint job. Like, it's very scratched up and weathered. It looks cool. It's, really huge. I think it should be probably a large ship. But I think
Kinda
the
like
reason
the
they did
K-Wing?
it is... yeah, it's even bigger than the K-Wing. It's maybe not quite as long, but it's a lot wider. It's, way bigger than the base. And I think I realized today that probably the only reason they made it small was because they wanted it to have the Talon roll, which I think would be pretty crazy on a big ship.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
It'd be cool.
what have I been playing? That's like an honest question. Not just some kind of weird lead-in. Because I can't remember if I played anything besides Armada since the last time we recorded. I might have been playing Imperial Assault Campaign, but maybe not. But if I haven't, then it's just maybe one match of Force Arena a day, and then in my quest to compete in every single Star Wars Store Championship in Tucson this summer, I decided I would do Armada, even though I don't own any Armada. The last time I had played Armada was at the 2016 Store Championships in Fargo, which was probably in the spring or something. I think there was, 5 people at that one? 4 or 5 people?
Yeah, something like that.
So in any case, it's been a long time since I played. And then, so I asked somebody I know here if I could borrow stuff, if he'd just make me a list, and I'll fly it, because I didn't have it. I don't even know where to start if I had to make my own list. So we played on Thursday before the tournament. Got in like 90% of a game before the store closed, and I was losing pretty bad. I had never won a game of Armada before that, and then the store championship was on Saturday, and I played in that, and I almost didn't, but I did. So, should we run through the tournament?
Go for it.
Well, because I was intending to only play if my participation would make it an even number of people, so no one would have to have a bye. And it looks like there was going to be 5 people, so I'm like, okay, I'll play. And I went and signed up, and I paid. And then, like, at the last minute, someone else joined to make it 7. But I had already paid, and I was already, like, set up. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm playing. And
Yeah.
so there was 7 people. And my list, actually...
7's pretty good, though. We had 5 up here. And so a majority of the people playing got a bye.
Yeah, I think there was even like 2 or 3 people in like who are Armada regulars who couldn't make it. I think there's more of an Armada crowd in Tucson than an Imperial Assault crowd. Let me look up my list real quick.
Yeah, we had kind of an annoying scheduling thing for ours, which was that the Fantasy Flight Game Center had their Armada tournament on the same day. So, we kind of hoped maybe 1 or 2 people would come up from Minneapolis, but obviously they all went to that instead. And then we had one of our sort of local players who we assumed would be there, and I thought we had talked to him about it, but he did not actually know about it, so he didn't show up. I'm like, oh, I wonder where he is. And he just, for some reason, had never realized that there was a tournament going on somehow. So we ended up with 5. We had 3 people come up from South Dakota, which was pretty cool. And that was pretty fun.
Well, the list that I didn't make, so big shout out to Gabe for making me this list and loaning me all the stuff to play. I had a ISD 2 Star Destroyer, so an Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer with Sloan, who honestly I think was the weakest link in the list, even though it's, from what I could gather, she's kind of the hot new thing. With the Avenger title, Gunnery Team, Electronic Countermeasures, and Leading Shots, at a Quasar Fire 2 class cruiser with Boarding Troopers and Stronghold title, Gladiator 1 class Star Destroyer with Demolisher, Assault Proton Torpedoes, and then 4 TIE Fighters, 3 TIE Interceptors, Howlrunner, and a Jumpmaster 500 for an even 400 points. And this was not the list I had played on Thursday, a couple nights before, because Gabe decided he wanted to throw in the Quasar so I could play with the new stuff. So yeah, I don't care.
Because that stuff had come out just like a couple days or a week or something before the tournament, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, cool, I'll try out this ship. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I should be setting up or approaching anything. I remember at the last Star Championship I'd played in, I'd flown a Star Destroyer off the board because I didn't know that it's usually better to just bump into another ship than try and avoid them if you can. Sometimes. Depends. I've learned that it's, okay to bump other ships.
Yeah, especially like an Imperial class has a lot of hull. Depending on the situation, they can maybe take it better than the ship they're ramming.
Right. I think I killed a ship by ramming them.
Nice.
That day. So my first match was against... I only played against Empire that day. I think there was 5 Empire, 2 Rebels that day. His list was sort of similar. It was a Star Destroyer, a Quasar, a Raider, and a bunch of squadrons. And I thought I was losing the whole time, and then it ended, and it turned out that I won on points. I think I had I can't remember, like maybe 100 more points than him. Oh, that's why I killed his Star Destroyer. Because, boarding troopers with Avengers. So the boarding troopers basically let you flip over a bunch of their defense tokens, which means it's a use it or lose it kind of thing.
Yeah, and it combos perfectly with that Avenger title.
And the Avenger says you can't spend your exhausted defense tokens. So basically, the boarding troopers go and they say, "Oh, all of your defense tokens kind of suck now," and then the Avengers like, "Oh, you can't even use them anyways." So you can't do anything to stop the damage that my Star Destroyer was putting out at that point into his Star Destroyer, which was pretty good. But that whole game, I felt like I was behind, and then I had a real good turn, and then the game ended. I'm like, oh, I won. I didn't think I was in a winning position. And then the second game, he was running 5 of the Imperial light cruisers. Each of them... Yeah, they were all identical, except one had Tarkin on it instead of the quad laser battery, I think it was. And they all had engine techs. And I kind of spied it the match before, because that match had run long, so everyone was just kind of standing around watching. And it seemed that, he pointed them sideways and tried to run them kind of along the board to kind of chew out. So I thought I set my guys up in a way that I'd be able to just kind of cut them off whichever way they went. And I guess that sort of worked out. My Quasar died really fast. I ran over a whole bunch of mines because it was the mines mission, and it was either trying to avoid them and get way off course or just plow through and actually be able to shoot at him. And that whole time I thought I was losing too because there was a lot of damage cards on my ships. And Quasar was dead, and then I killed 2 of his ships, and the game ended, and it turned out that I won. Because I think his ships were like 70 points apiece, and the one ship he killed of mine was only 60. And there was no extra points gained via the mission. So I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. That means I'm 2-0, and I might be in the running for first place if I do well in the next match, because it's only 3 rounds because the rounds take forever.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of people in the tournament before it bumps up to 4.
And then the last match was just against 2 Quasars and a victory and a lot of squadrons. The only time my squadrons didn't get torn apart was in the game against the light cruisers because he had no squadrons. My squadrons got torn to shreds, which made Sloan pretty worthless. But I'm not quite sure what happened in that match, but I managed to kill his Quasar, held off against his fighters somehow just by shifting my shields around and stuff. And I got real lucky against his victory. I put a lot of damage on there with the Gladiator and my Star Destroyer, and he was about to just obliterate my Gladiator, but he couldn't roll an accuracy to let him tell me I can't cut his damage in half.
Yeah.
That would have, if he had just 1 accuracy, that would have been kind of game over for me. So it basically came down to that 1 roll on his part, I think. And so I got to live, and I killed his ship, and I tabled him. I didn't lose any of my ships, and I killed all of his, minus the squadrons. And then I'm like, okay. And then the scores got tallied, and I was number 1, and I took first place in a 7-player Armada tournament, and I had never won a game of Armada before that day. And it felt really weird because, that's not my game. I don't really know much about it. I was just doing it for fun, and then I won.
Yeah, that's good, though. Like, I almost feel like...
I feel very dirty about it because I was like, do they hate me now? Like, they're all very nice. Like, I really liked the people who were at the tournament. They're all really nice. They're all, they knew I was new and, were making sure I didn't, like, miss obvious rules and things like that. And it was a good crowd. Everyone was very laid back. It wasn't nearly as kind of uptight as X-Wing can be. But I was like, sorry, I won. I didn't think I would win anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just goes to show that it's less about the rules than kind of a broad strategy. Obviously, it helps a lot to have expectations of how good each ship can do in different situations or whatever, but you were able to kind of analyze at a real high level.
I guess. I mean, I do think I knew how to approach the game better after, that tournament over a year ago. Because I'm like, well, I could pull this move here, but, I think I'm just going to bump him because that leaves me in a better position for the future. Because the ship I'm bumping, it's a lot worse for them to take that 1 damage than it is for me to take that 1 damage. Plus, I'm going to be in a good spot. And I don't know what happened. I probably could never repeat that. I'm definitely not some sort of Armada prodigy.
You never know. Maybe you've discovered your best game and you just never knew it before.
No. I still am very convinced I don't want to buy Armada as well. If that's kind of weird, but that's a long game, especially when you play 3 rounds of it. And something you're used to when you play X-Wing is that like pre-measuring is taboo. It's against the rules. It's expressly forbidden in the rules of X-Wing. You just gotta eyeball things and see how they play out. In Armada, you can just like measure out every single possible thing with the rulers and the templates that you want before you commit to it, which is helpful. And I don't think the game would work if it were like X-Wing where you couldn't pre-measure, but it makes it take a long time. Yeah, because you get to sit there and think, and go, what if this happened? Or what if I move like this? What if, is he in range? Let me check. Is that guy going to be in range a turn from now? It takes a long time. It's still too slow for my taste. It's a fun, the game is, yeah, it's really pretty. It's a fun game. It's just still not quite for me to own. I think I'll be fine with playing it like every once in a long time like I have been.
Yeah, and it's nice that you have someone that you can borrow stuff from, so you can play a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the tournament, so you faced a couple Quasars. Do you remember what some of the other lists that you didn't face were running? I'm kind of curious how much was new stuff and stuff like that.
Of the new stuff, I think it was... So my list had a Quasar, the other one had 2 Quasars. The first one I faced had a Quasar, and then there was only one team that had Hammerheads. I think that was Gabe, the one who loaned me the stuff to play. He was running, I think, 4 or 5 Hammerheads with a Nebulon B and a CR90.
Okay.
Something like that. That one just looked really cool on the table. I don't remember how he did with it, but it was fun to look at. And then I think another one just had a Home 1 and a Liberty or whatever they're called, and some other random Rebel stuff. But of the new stuff, I think only Gabe had Hammerheads, and then there were 3 lists that had Quasars. Because those boarding troopers are only as good as your squadron command, and that carrier has 4. So
yeah,
because if you're unfamiliar, the way defense works in Armada is I roll my attack dice, and then you have some tokens you can flip over to defend with. And if you flip them over, you can still spend them again later. But if you spend them after they've already been flipped over, they're just gone for the rest of the game. So it's kind of like a last ditch kind of thing. And the boarding troopers just make you flip all of them, and you don't get a say in it, which is pretty brutal.
Yeah. I think that'll be a really good upgrade going forward. Especially on ships,
Yeah, well, after I just used that to totally obliterate a Star Destroyer, the guy did that too. He was looking at what ships could take that, and apparently there aren't very many ships that can equip the boarding troopers because of the upgrade slots they use. And the ones that can, of those, only like maybe the Quasar and the Imperial Star Destroyer have a high enough squadron value to make them worthwhile.
Yeah, it's going to be like I forget all the exact ones, but the Victory Star Destroyer, the Imperial Star Destroyer.
I think the Raider can take it, but only has a squadron of 1.
It wouldn't be very good at it. The new Hammerheads could take it, but they have really bad squadron value. And then I think probably the only other one for Rebels would be the assault frigate, which would be okay at it. But I mean, the Victory and Imperial class would be really great. They've got a lot of health and really big dice pools, so they're perfect for. They're not scared of getting into short range and then doing a big attack, so it works well with them.
Yeah, I kind of almost want one of those Hammerhead packs just because that ship is so cool.
I know what you mean. I bought one pack, and I don't know if I would ever run 4 of them, but I kind of want to buy another pack and just paint them all in different colors and stuff.
Could try and mod them to look like the Rogue One Hammerheads. Because the ones in Armada are modeled after the version in Rebels.
Yeah, exactly.
The one in Rogue One are slightly different. They're almost like some kind of combat retrofit of the one from Rebels.
Yeah, the ones in Rogue One have like an extra engine on top, and they have little extra turret doohickeys hanging off the side or something.
Yeah.
But I've seen some nice 3D printed ones online that have the Rogue One style. It looks pretty nice. Yeah,
so
that's
I did end up. I mean, I kept the plaque. I wasn't going to get rid of the plaque, but I gave my regional bye to the guy who got second place, and I gave my Dodonna card to the guy I beat in the final.
Nice.
But I kept a couple of the prizes, which I'm going to be giving some away on this episode, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. So if you want some Armada Store Championship swag, stay tuned, because obviously I don't have a use for it because I don't own the game. And I'm thinking, so me, Evan, Leo, and my assumption is most of our listeners don't own or play Armada, but might be thinking about it. Should we talk about getting into Armada?
I think we should, because as I've said before many times, because it's my only experience with it, was last year a demo at Gen Con, and I thought it was fantastic. And I would love, just personally, to know more about how to progress if the day ever comes, and I hope that it does, when I do finally break down and get that Armada core set.
So one thing I want to know is something a lot of people bring up when talking about why they've maybe chosen X-Wing over Armada is price. And someone has told me, for the price of one Armada expansion, I could get 3 X-Wing expansions. But I was thinking, yeah, but if, let's say you want to play in a tournament, you probably only need that one Armada expansion. In an X-Wing, you probably need those 3 things. So it's not like you're kind of getting a better deal there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Armada rolls out products at a much slower pace than X-Wing.
Yeah, that's true. So far, the expansions have come out. I don't know if it's way, way slower than X-Wing, but they've definitely come out a little slower so far. The wave that just came out was Wave 6, and they've done some bigger waves, but the last few have been only like one ship for each faction at a time, and sometimes some squadrons as well. So it kind of depends. The big ships are definitely more expensive than most X-Wing ships, like the Imperial class Star Destroyer is one of the bigger ones, and obviously the core set costs more than X-Wing.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the biggest obstacle to entry.
Yeah, the turnoff for people that are looking at it on the shelf. It kind of depends. The Starfighter packs are similar to an X-Wing ship in cost. Most people probably want multiple of those. It has a little bit of the same syndrome that X-Wing does, where some of the upgrades you might want to run might come in a different ship's pack, maybe even one for a different faction.
Right.
It kind of depends.
If you're like, I just only want to fly the Empire, and I'm only going to buy the Empire, you're going to be missing out on some critical upgrade cards because those come in Rebel ships.
Yeah, possibly, but not too many. A lot of them will come in duplicates across multiple ships. It kind of depends, though. I feel like most of the bread and butter ones, you won't have a problem getting. There's only a few that maybe only come in one ship or something. And there's a lot of faction-specific ships too. So, I mean, if you're playing only Imperial, there aren't going to be many things that you need to buy Rebels to get. And some of the ones that that you would need to get from a different ship are also ones that are available as alt art cards that you could get on eBay or from a tournament kit or something, and then you could get them that way. So that would work too. So I guess the main thing is, obviously, like X-Wing or Imperial Assault or whatever, you have to start with the core set. That's going to come with a Victory class Star Destroyer and a CR-90 Corvette and a Nebulon B. And I want to say it comes with like 4 or 6 X-Wing squadrons and 6 to 8 TIE Fighter squadrons. So that's real basic stuff. That's not at all enough to get a whole fleet, but you do get all the tokens, templates, dice, and stuff that you need. Obviously, like damage deck and your main set of upgrade cards. That's going to be all the stuff you need to get started for sure.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like X-Wing, where you get one X-Wing and 2 TIE Fighters, where it's like there's no way I can just live with just this.
Yeah, definitely not for a tournament. That's enough for like the demo game that you can do to learn the game that comes with the core set. It would be a 180-point match. The current tournament level is at 400 points. So you're definitely going to want, just at a minimum, probably a couple more ships or a few small ships, kind of depending on what ones you think are interesting, and probably a couple or a few fighter packs, depending on which types of fighters you're interested in. But for something like an Imperial class Star Destroyer or a Mon Calamari cruiser, those ships are going to be over 100 points, maybe even close to 150. So you can fill up a list with those really quickly if you want to do that. A lot of the smaller ships are more like the 50, 60, 70-point range for the smaller ones, and a lot of the medium ones are kind of in like the 80 to 100-point range. So you can kind of use that to estimate how many different ships you want. And then with the squadrons, the cheapest right now are TIE Fighters or Z95s, which are less than 10 points. But most of the other squadrons you can get will be like in the 12 to 15-point range. And then unique squadrons can be over 20 pretty easily. So those can fill out a list pretty quickly, honestly, especially when you tack on upgrades and stuff like that. And every fleet also needs an admiral in it, and those are all 20 to 40 points right now. So that'll always take up a chunk of your list too.
Fantasy Flight needs to. They've been putting out like X-Wing 101, and they did oh, here's what you can buy to make a competitive list as kind of cheaply as possible. You can do that for Armada.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be helpful for people.
Yeah, I think so, because one of the things that's hard to keep track of right now, I think even more so than X-Wing, is, especially if you get to the point where you're looking at specific upgrade cards or specific admirals, it's kind of hard to track down which which ships those are going to come with to get the upgrades you want. And planning that all out can be probably a little complicated if you're trying to buy just specific things.
Are there any
there would be helpful?
Any ships currently that are just absolutely not worth buying at all?
Maybe. It kind of depends. One thing worth pointing out here too is there's the normal like tournament style of play where you're doing 400-point matches. And that's most of the kind of the meta that people look at is what's good in these tournament matches. But there's also the Corellian conflict,
right,
which is like a sort of a team-based campaign type mode. And you end up using some different objectives and some other different mechanics. And so there are actually some ships that end up being better in the Corellian conflict that people don't really like to use in tournaments that much. So the
Corellian conflict
is going to be a good example of that.
Oh yeah, I've heard people, they weren't speaking too highly of the interdictor, but it's good in the campaign.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stat-wise. It has a very different role from some of the other Star Destroyers you can take. Um, People haven't found its different gravity well upgrades to be super, super impactful in tournaments, although they can be. They're just kind of situational. But in the Corellian conflict, they become really useful where you can stop the enemy fleet from going into hyperspace, which makes it harder for them to save their ships for a future battle and stuff, and that can be really good. So they're really good there. I would guess most people that are looking at playing are probably looking more at the tournament rather than the Corellian conflict, even though I think the Corellian conflict is really cool.
Yeah, that looked really cool. And one of the other cool things about it, I thought, was they just tossed in a bunch of random cards for existing ships. They threw in like Sienna Ree as a TIE Interceptor pilot from the... they just found these characters, right, that they thought, these characters came out after we made these products, so we're going to just throw them in this box. Like, what, Shara Bay and Valen Rudor, didn't they all come in that box? And some other people like Biggs that they hadn't used before.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool new unique squadrons in there. They also have unique things like Rogue Squadron or Green Squadron or Black Squadron that are not specific pilots, but they're still a unique version of that squadron that you can take that have a little different keywords and stuff. So those are pretty interesting. Those are all things that you can't use without already owning squadron packs. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Yeah, I mean, with the core set, that would be fine. You basically need the bases to put them on. It comes with the card and the cardboard for it, and you don't technically need the model on the peg, I guess, but you probably would want the model that goes along with it. So those would come in a separate squadron pack. Yeah, the other cool thing that comes with the Corellian conflict that's very useful for tournaments is a second set of objective cards. So there's 12 that come in the core set and 12 new ones that come in the Corellian conflict. And all 24 of those are things that are illegal in the tournament. Anytime you're building a list for a tournament, you have to have 3 objective cards that are built in as part of your list.
That's one of the things I find way cooler about Armada than X-Wing. X-Wing is always, all right, let's fight to the death. Okay, let's fight to the death. Okay, let's fight to the death. And like you said in Armada, you have to pick these 3 objectives to stick to your list.
I'm surprised they haven't added something like that to X-Wing yet, because it makes such a big difference on the playing, especially now that there's these 24 different ones. Even with 12, there's a lot of variety, but with 24, it's pretty crazy.
What if you decide to go first, then your opponent gets to pick one of yours, right?
If you're first,
then you pick one from
your opponents, and the way most of the objectives are designed are that they're things that benefit the second player more than the first player. So the first player is picking the second player's objectives, and the second player has probably designed their list around these objectives, or at least picked objectives that suit their list, or that at a minimum that they've planned out their deployment or whatever for, so they know how to deal with the objective. The first player doesn't know what those objectives are going to be when they pick if they're going to be first or not. It's kind of the same thing as X-Wing, where if you have fewer points in your list, you get to decide if you have initiative or not, and then once you decide if you do, you get to see what objectives you're going with at that point.
Yeah, that's really cool because, 2 of my 3 games at the tournament were playing the same scenarios, like some fighter ambush, I think, which rewarded squadrons for dealing damage cards to ships, which in the first game, I think he got 5 of those. You get points for doing that, and he got 5 hits landed from squadrons on my ships, which made the game even closer than for him, because he just scored a bunch of points that way. But then the other one was the minefield. Like I said, he got to set up some mines, and between the mines and the obstacles, there's just no way I was going to go out to engage him without running him over. So I just was like, okay, screw it. I'm going to queue up some engineering actions, so hopefully I can fix the damage that I'm going to suffer by driving through these mines.
Yeah, and I think some of the most interesting objectives they've come up with have been things that change the deployment. So there's some where you put out the obstacle tokens in different places. Some of the new ones that come with Corellian Conflict lead you to put out more obstacle tokens than you normally would. There's even one really crazy one in the Corellian Conflict where you deploy on the short sides of the table instead of the long ones.
So that sounds like it would make the game take longer.
Maybe. The big thing in Armada 2 is you're always a max of 6 turns only. So
yeah. Even though the game is super long, there's always like an end in sight.
Yeah, they always have a limit on there. And in this one too, you're deploying on the short side, but you can also deploy further in from your side. So I think it doesn't end up being really any further away total. But on that one, the second player is trying to rush past the first player and get into the opposite deployment zone for bonus points. And there's some where you're trying to blow up the station or protect it. There's some where you're trying to pick up tokens, and it's all very interesting. It all changes the game a lot, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's something I really like. I guess I wouldn't say I'm jealous anymore because I have Imperial Assault, which, also has cool objective play, but X-Wing really needs something like that. But I feel like at this point it would probably require like a new box that included new tokens and cards and things.
Yeah, I think they could really do it similar to Armada with the Corellian Conflict thing. If they had some type of co-op campaign or something,
everyone would probably get all whiny, but I mean, there is that Heroes of the Artillery Cluster co-op campaign that's fan-made. Like, they could just make something like that. Everyone would be like, oh, they're ripping off this guy's hard work. Well, I mean, that's the risky run when you make a fan work for a corporation's product.
For free like that. And I think they could do probably in some ways a better job,
I've never actually jumped into the Artillery Cluster. It looked fun.
Yeah, I tried it one time, and it's pretty interesting. I like doing it as a co-op mode. Kind of has sort of a AI system where you can run the enemy TIE fighters and stuff. It has things where you upgrade your ship over time, kind of like the Corellian Conflict does, and it has new terrain and stuff you put down. And I think an official FFG product could do the same thing, and that's really what they did with Corellian Conflict too. And it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think the only other thing people should really know about that might not sound like a thing you should care about if you're thinking about Armada is you need a 6-foot by 3-foot play space, right?
Yeah.
Which, for a lot of people, if you usually play your games at home or something, that could be a problem. I don't know. It's something to be aware of. I couldn't play Armada at my home if I wanted to.
Yeah,
my table's not big enough.
Big table space. The only reason I have space at my house is a table that I used to use for Warhammer 40K because that's like the same size. It ends up being the size of 2 X-Wing mats. So if you own your own X-Wing mats, you can put 2 together, and then that's the Armada space. It's kind of interesting. A lot of the matches you play will probably end up taking place on a lot smaller portion of the board. You usually don't need the whole board except when you're setting up. By the time everything's down, everyone kind of ends up on one mat or the other. But it is important for deploying and figuring out where you're going to go, which space you're going to go into. And it looks really cool to have that huge space, but yeah.
Yeah, that never seemed like we ever utilized the whole space, but
yeah, so that's definitely it's something that is affected a lot by the objectives too. I think they realized that when they were deciding, they were designing on some of the newer objectives. Some of them are things where you're more likely to need to spread out to get the objectives. The one where you deploy on the short side, you're going to need the whole width to even try to get past the enemy fleet and try to get to the opposite end. So it depends a lot on those. Of course, what you see the most in tournaments, people have kind of figured out which objectives work the best in tournaments usually. So you'll see like the top few ones repeated a lot, and some won't get used very much. But still, there's definitely cool objectives that are nice to take in both the core set and the Krellian conflict.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
You own X-Wing, Imperial Assault, and Armada. How do you rank the three of them?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I think for me, X-Wing is the easiest to put as number one. I think the base rules are the simplest. I think the movement and timing is the easiest to keep track of. And I like that it has, you play a lot of shorter turns instead of a few longer turns like you do with the other two. So I would definitely place X-Wing the first. And I think it's the easiest to get a game in because there's more people playing. It's easier to find an opponent and get a match in whenever you want. The other two, I'm not sure which I would rate higher. It depends so much on the day. They both scratch different itches, and I want to play different ones at different times. I think Armada has a really huge scale that's cool. It has like a very strategic outlook that is fun. Imperial Assault has a lot more of the modeling and painting aspect, which is something the other games only scratch a little bit for me. I don't know. I think I would almost put Armada and Imperial Assault as a tie. So they're both so cool in different ways. I don't know. It depends a lot.
I think I'm going to try and make an X-Wing Armada Imperial Assault cross-game event happen in town. But
yeah,
that takes a lot of people. Well, I feel like I've come up with the simplest, easiest way to do it. And the hardest part would just be getting people involved. But we'll see if that happens. Definitely won't bother until Store Championship season's over.
Yeah. I think the hardest part is everyone wants to find some way to do it simultaneously and say,
no,
we're doing a squadron fight, so let's zoom in and do an X-Wing match. And, okay, we're doing boarding engineers, so let's zoom in and do an IA match. And that would be hard to work out. But
that's like, in a nutshell,
sort of branching campaign where you say, okay, then tomorrow we're going to play a match with this, and that continues the story. That could work really cool.
Yeah, without getting into too much detail, my idea, each different game does not benefit the other games. It's not like, I did this in Armada. That means when my teammate plays X-Wing, he'll get this bonus. No, they're all basically, it's basically just a team tournament where you're playing different games, and they don't affect each other. That way it doesn't matter. If you can play it on your own schedule, the Imperial Assault player is going to play his game first. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to wait till the other two are done. It's just kind of a fun, basically a team tournament with different games.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That you play over a couple weeks on your own time.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily directly affecting each other, but they still kind of tie together into the total.
Your team score, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, with the right theme, it could be really cool too, because it immediately made me think of the Star Wars Risk, where we've got these people doing the fleet battle and these people trying to get down the shield generator, and there's a squadron battle happening, in the superstructure or something. You could do something really cool like that, where thematically it makes sense, even if you don't have to do it like, they have to take down the shield before we can do the thing, but you could kind of play them all out in tandem and kind of see how the story goes from that. That'd be really cool.
I'll try and make it happen. The problem is going to be coming up with Imperial Assault and Armada. There's definitely no shortage of X-Wing players.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Evan, are you going to buy Armada now?
I would love to. I would love to get Armada. And no, like I said, I found it every bit as fun as X-Wing, and everything really made sense. Actually, you know what? I was just checking to see if we were having any store championships for Armada in the area. There's only one in Indianapolis, but apparently Lafayette, which is about roughly an hour away, has 3 of them. So I guess that's where people need to go to play Armada around here. I don't know if Purdue just attracts Armada people or what, but yeah, I would be all about that. Of course, I say that, and I don't have time to play anything really currently, except when a LCG Store Champs comes up, and I'm like, oh, well, that's my game. Got to go.
Yeah, I think if you could do the same thing as Joe and borrow a list from someone, that's a good way to kind of start getting into the game, try out some of the ships and upgrades and see what you might be interested in buying to start, especially, if someone can build you a list too, then you don't have to know about all the different ships and upgrades, and that can be a good starting point.
Yeah, well, and they all look awesome.
Yeah,
it's hard to not want to just get
the Star Destroyer on the table is just always the best.
Cool. It just looms over everything. It's huge. There's so much detail. It feels like you're in the start of A New Hope with that huge model coming in on top of the camera, and you're just like soaking in all the detail.
The one thing I'm really curious about the future of Armada is, it's pretty much inevitable that an Admiral card for Thrawn will be introduced to the game sometime. Now that he's, canon again, it's got to happen. He's the perfect fit for this game. But they already released a Star Destroyer pack, and I can't imagine people would be very excited to have to go buy a second Star Destroyer with different cards in it. So I'm trying to figure out how they would release that card.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I know one thing that
people with a Star Destroyer, about, right?
Huh?
He's got to be with a Star Destroyer, right?
Well, maybe, yeah.
I like the idea of, because X-Wing re-releases ships sometimes with alternate paint jobs, just give the Chimera paint job where the only difference is on the bottom where you can't see it when you're playing.
Yeah, they have a few options. One thing people have talked about recently on the forums is, there's different variants of the Imperial class. We already have the...
I suppose there are different, like the bridge is kind of different on different Star Destroyers.
Yeah, we have cards for the 1 and 2, but the model looks like the 2 class, not the 1 class. So they could do one that is a 1 class, and it's probably a different shade of paint or something. There's also something called a Tector class, which was basically an Imperial class, but like the hangar bay is replaced and has more armor or something. Because, there was a model in one frame of the Battle of Endor that didn't have the hangar bay in the right spot or something. So they had to invent a new ship type for it, right? So, they could dig in and do some stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think he would have to come with an Imperial class necessarily. I think they could make it work if they found the right ship.
I feel like they should just release another campaign with more just free cards thrown in there. Make the Lothal campaign, the Lothal conflict.
I think that would be really cool, and they could do similar rules to the Corellian conflict, but change up, add some new ones or something.
I mean, a lot of Rebels stuff has seeped into Armada already, much like the other games.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to see that Ahsoka Tano has a crew card in Armada.
Yep, and they just added Hondo. He came with the Hammerheads, and so did Cham Syndulla.
I thought Hondo should have been the first faction independent card. You could put him on either team.
Well, he is faction independent. He's not the first one. He's probably the first unique one. Yeah, he's faction independent, actually.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, let's see. Like Cham Syndulla is Rebels only, and there's a lot of captains and admirals and stuff that are Rebels or Imperial only. Actually, I think Empire has more. There's a lot of generic ones. I think Hondo might be the first unique one that is factionless. I'm probably wrong, but he's certainly one of the few. So that is actually pretty cool. And whichever side takes him, his ability is fun because he ends up helping both of the people playing although he helps the side that he's on a little bit more, which is kind of
That's funny. Well, we've probably just talked about Armada more in the last however many minutes than we have since this show started, I bet.
Yes, I think that is actually quite accurate. And I'm glad. I hope that we continue to take a look at this, because it
Thank you
is
for
a great
helping us
game.
to fill that hole, Kurt.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about it a little bit.
Well, the next time we need some intelligent conversation about Armada, we will bring you back on here, because the rest of us are just like, yep, those ships are pretty.
Sure, sounds good. And people can always do some comments on the Discord, and I'll probably jump in on that.
Kurt just sits there and he waits for people to mention Armada. His fingers are always just right by the keyboard, and he sees, oh, so-and-so is typing. It pops up, it's about Destiny. Crap.
And I'm always like derailing the conversations, like, oh, they mentioned, Cham Syndulla. Oh, did you know he's a crew card in Armada? Let me tell you about it.
Well, like I had said earlier, I hung on to some of my prizes from my illustrious victory that I'm going to pass on to you, the listener, who may or may not own Armada, I guess. So if you don't own Armada, why do you want this?
Well, because they have really cool art.
Well, what I'm going to be giving away here is the range ruler. Cool double-sided acrylic range ruler. Because Armada has like two different types of measurement. There's range and distance. And this has both on the same one. Which apparently they
really
only
nice.
recently figured out, because I remember at the last Star Championship they had to have two separate pieces of acrylic for that.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't double-side it. But
And having two separate ones is a little annoying, but the double-sided one is real nice. It's a little transparent, so you can actually kind of see both sides at once, which is actually pretty useful
it's
too.
really pretty. And I actually had hung on to my acrylic one from the year before that I used at this tournament. So, but I guess I'm not hanging on to this one until next year. I gave that other one to one of the players there, in case you're wondering why I'm not giving that one away. So I'm going to give away the range ruler. I'm going to give away a couple GR75 medium transport alt art cards and a set of acrylic evade tokens for Armada. And what you have to do if you want to win is there's going to be a tweet about this episode on our Twitter. It'll probably be pinned to our page once it's up. Just quote that tweet, use the hashtag Jodo Armada, and then say whatever you got to say about Armada in that tweet. And I'll look through those tweets and pick some winners sometime after you hear this.
Excellent.
Sound good? Good.
Yeah,
I think that
sounds
works.
great. Well, unless there's anything else that we really needed to talk about, we can probably...
Also, you should probably also be following us if you participate. It definitely won't hurt your chances. I'll say that.
He hinted broadly. All right, so let's wrap this sucker up. You know what we forgot to do at the top of the show? We forgot to say thank you to all of our patrons out there, because they are the best people in the world, like we keep on saying. It can't be said enough. And if you want to become part of Team Best People in the World, you need to go to patreon.com/thejodocast. You can check out our patron level rewards, as well as our milestone goals, and we are, as of right now, within $20 of hitting our first milestone goal. So when that happens, we're going to make these recordings available to be listened to live as we do them, for better or worse. So if you would like to be a part of that, go check it out. And if there's anything else that you would like to see included in that, let us know also.
One of the cool things about being on Patreon right now is we're sending every one of our patrons a cool custom art Rancor card for Imperial Salt that Leo drew up and designed, and it's really cool. And I imagine in the future we'll probably have other custom art cards for different games that you'll be able to get because you're a patron.
And that's for all patrons.
Yes.
Not just certain levels.
All patrons,
everyone.
big and small.
That was a good book. And if you
The book
want
you
to
read before you set up your Patreon.
if you want to listen to us in different places than where you're listening to us right now, or if you've got friends who use a different podcatcher than you can tell them to listen to us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and our RSS feed. If you want to talk with us, you can over at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All of those are /the JodoCast. If you want to, or at, yes, you're correct. Well, the Twitter would be twitter.com/the JodoCast.
I guess.
I mean, people don't really do that, I suppose. But
You're technically correct. The best kind of correct.
That's going on a t-shirt.
I disagree with that sentiment, by the way. Because if you play board games with rules lawyers enough, you resent people who are technically correct when it comes to rules in board games.
And that's why 9 times out of 10, I'm the DM, so I can say, I don't care. And if you want
Technically, I can put the IG 2000 title on the TIE aggressor. No, stop it.
What? That doesn't even... Okay.
They had to errata it.
It's aggressor. It says aggressor only, and technically it could go on a TIE aggressor.
They had to errata it.
Oh.
And I feel like they should have included the, caveat, of course, you idiots. Why did you make us have to do this? Because technically, you could put IG 2000 on a TIE aggressor.
Oh my gosh.
You know better.
Apparently they don't. But if you want to watch us do things that we should have known better, that was not a good transition, you can. And you can watch us on Twitch. Was it twitch.tv/the JodoCast? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, that's it. I might be doing some Battlefront before this episode airs, so it doesn't matter to you.
You're still on a crusade to get me to 100, huh?
It's double XP this weekend. I feel like we should play. If anything, maybe I'll get to 100 this weekend.
All right, that's fair enough. I will help you. I will be your meat shield, because that's apparently all that I'm good for. And then youtube.com/
YouTube is where it's happening.
/the JodoCast?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably good work. My wife was looking at our YouTube, and she found out there is a different YouTube channel called the JodoCast.
What?
And apparently they do Nerf gun mods.
All right. Well, there you go.
But they are not the premier Star Wars gaming podcast, so whatever.
No one is but us. If you want to talk with us and other people, you can do so at our Reddit, reddit.com/r/the JodoCast, and the apparently very popular Discord server. So if you want to jump on there, head on over to jodocast.com, at which you'll find links to everything we've mentioned, as well as some site-exclusive articles. We haven't had as many lately, but they're there, and some of them are very good. And you can follow the link there to get on the Discord and join all of the people there. And
you can ask Kurt all of your Armada questions.
Sure.
There you go. Are you ready for that, Kurt? Are you ready for the onslaught?
Sure, it's fine.
I mean, you really should be on our Discord, because I'm there all the time, ready to talk about stuff. But, yeah. I mean, we post announcements there, we post news, we talk about Star Wars, talk about Star Wars games, talk about not any of those things.
There's trivia battles.
Yeah, every Tuesday we have a trivia showdown.
And if you are insistent on emailing us something, you can do so also. show@jodocast.com. As always, let us know elsewhere that you did, so that you don't get lost in all the spam. All right, gentlemen. Was there anything else? Anything I forgot?
Spay and neuter your wampas.
Yeah, we didn't get any Wampahole references into this one. That poor Twitter feed of Wampahole will be very disappointed. Shout out to Wampahole.
Big shout out to Wampahole, the Twitter account that was created because of a weird joke a long time ago.
All right, well,
Best
thank you, Kurt, for coming on and filling some holes for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep, and Joe, thanks for being here again, I guess. All right, everyone, the silence is deafening. Everyone have a good night or morning, whenever it is you're listening to this, and we will catch you next time.
That was me doing like a wink and like a, you know what I mean? One of those guys.
Yeah.
Catch you next time. Finger guns, wink.